One of the things that was is interesting that we did it after the Olympics. I mean, the three of us certainly picked up on it. Was the Nike campaign, which was "Am I a bad person?" And they ran this campaign, and it was basically Willem Dafoe who was doing the voiceover, and they were talking. He was saying some of the exact words that are associated with this concept. So it was like, "I show no empathy. Am I a bad person?" overlaid with images of athletes. So quite often these traits are kind of glamorized, and again that perpetuates a misunderstanding about the detrimental effects for the individual, but also those around him, and as Jill rightly said, society at large and sport at large.
Do you think that bad boy image actually plays into the narcissism? It's like they like that.
It's a difficult question.
That's a tough question.
Is that too vague?
No, I think what you're asking is there a glamorization? Like, do people enjoy to see other people behaving badly? Is that sort of what you're asking?
Not from like other people. I can see why people might see that almost attractive, because I don't know, the bad boy image, they associated with that, they see performance and that's what they like. I might be able to sort of not copy, but there are sort of traits that they have which I feel like if I had them might lead to an improved performance for myself. But I think my original question was more around, I know narcissism is quite high in those with psychopathy. So do they go towards sports which have more attention on them or more money, which feeds into that? And then when they get there, they get this image of being a bad boy, and then they like that. That plays into the narcissism.
Yes, it does it. That's the point. So it's not just, this is what makes these high positions attractive. And again, it's not just in sports, but it's also in business. The little control, this aspect of showing dominance, of having power over other people, of having power over other destinies. And then, of course, being in the public and having all this attention is something that plays very well into this. And the notion is that you can keep this public, that you can keep this facade most likely for a long time. And even if proven otherwise, still keeping this and suing everybody else for that is something very particular and which is associated with this sort of traits. Yes. And the other point you are making now, is this something that spectators are being drawn to? It might as well. I'm not an expert on that aspect, but of course, maybe the ruthlessness, people that are not having in their own life, maybe they are looking for this in this situation and cheering for that. But I think it's more this portrayal within, and this is no media bashing, but the portrayal within the media of these traits being something to aspire to is the notion, right? The guy pushing someone else away, not kneeling down, not the camaraderie, not focusing. It's focusing on the wins, the most medals, the most success, and not on the notion of camaraderie, which is great in sports, right? Stopping your bike, helping someone else, looking back, turning over, waiting if someone else has an accident, and not riding an attack at that moment. So there are actually things which the media focuses more, and maybe they start to do this and the next generation is shifting more into this direction. Then I think also this positiveness of psychopathic traits will disappear and will make it more at what it is something that is not good for the common people. It's not good for us in sports. It's actually not something we really want to see. We want to see the positive side of it.
I think that Nike campaign is a perfect example, because I think I would urge people to go away and look that up, because there's a specific thing when it's like, I have a lack of empathy. Am I a bad person? And I can't remember what it's either a free throw that goes into the basketball hoop, or it's someone who finishes first. And it's basically directly connecting a lack of empathy with sporting success. And obviously a lack of empathy is indicative of these traits. And if you think about how a lack of empathy could actually play out, and the negative consequences of a lack of empathy, like Michael said, with the downhill skiing, where you just ignore an opponent who's potentially very seriously injured, it ignores a whole bigger picture and perpetuates kind of misinformation about the seriousness and the gravity of actually what these traits can do.
I would also like to add to that although we're talking about elite athletes and we're talking about the Olympics and these types of traits can and are exhibited by just regular amateur athletes. And the way that we can see those traits is, let's say on a much more micro level, but let's say, for example, let's take narcissism. We're imagining this person coming out like onto, I don't know, a tennis court or a, football pitch, and they're just, eating up all the adoration from the crowd, right? And it's feeding this sense of narcissism. An amateur athlete who has a, very strong narcissistic trait is someone who will miss every one of their kids' birthdays to train. It's someone who will not show up to family holidays or anything like that because their need and what they want is more important than anyone around them. And so when we sort of, as a society, allow for the glorification or the glamorization of these traits, the elite athletes, for example, that spot, and it is so disturbing, that spot. It really is. I cannot emphasize enough how you expect it to sort of turn back or to kind of take its foot off the gas, at some point, and saying, well, I feel like a bad person, but actually sportsmanship is the way to go, Sportsmanship is how
especially with the Olympics. Olympic spirit,
Yeah, because we expect, we uphold athletes as heroes in our society. And with that should be some measure of kindness and empathy and some of the better, our better selves, right, as they say. But that's not the case with this ad. It is disturbing. And once we start to glorify and glamorize these traits in the elite athletes, that trickles down to amateur athletes. It trickles down to the youth. It trickles down in a way societally that somehow now gives permission for people to behave badly in order to achieve what they want. And specifically when we talk about making time for lots of different things in life and having different obligations, it really starts to become very uncomfortable, even within like a family dynamic, when there's one person who is now sucking all the attention and energy because, they are participating in a sport that's taking up a lot of their time. So these things, they seem kind of out there and kind of like, oh, well, this is happening on the world stage. This is happening at the Olympics. No, this is happening at your local triathlon. This is happening at your local, half marathon. It's happening everywhere. So it's important to not underestimate, let's say, the power of these messages, where they come from and where they end up.